Welcome to Catholic Party for America. Today's program is on Profile on Courage. And welcome Brother Alexis Bonello to the show.
Thank you, AJ, for having me back on. It's always a delight to talk about Catholic Party for America and encourage fellow Catholics to join up.
Yep. So, before we talk about courage, we gotta again talk about those causing despair, surrender, and also denial.
Yeah, so there's a lot of Catholics out there that have they're just, the problem is too big for them. They're freaking out, I can say. We've had some very popular Catholic speakers, one saying just, forget it. Your vote doesn't mean anything anymore. Forget about politics, go about your life, hide away in a hole.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And there's another one you saying, it's over, do nothing. I'm just going to give up. You should just give up. Then there's another one saying, there's nothing wrong here. There's nothing matter.
Yeah, so these are like the three emotional extremes. Denial is like nothing's happened. It's just like any other election, you have to get through it. And that's the person who has no values, and they might claim that they believe, but in reality, they don't use faith to judge the world, what they see. That's really a form of cowardice, because if you pretend nothing's happened, then you can go along with the ruling regime. Whatever tyrant takes power, you say, well, nothing's happened, everything is fine, government is great, he's my president.
Mm-hmm.
And the surrender people, probably the worst, the ones telling you to surrender in the sense of telling you just to give up, and because they're at least recognize that there's something wrong. And the despair people probably least to be faulted, because they're just frightened like little children, and they haven't acquired virtue. The virtue of courage. But it's quite amazing that there's really so few Catholic voices out there that's saying, hey, we're at a crossroads in American history here. And I think each of these three have some truth to it. We have come to a point where if we don't do anything, the American Republic is over. And we are at a point where finally the veil's been torn away, and we see it's a complete Masonic joke in this country. And it's not really democracy. It's ruled by the elites in New York City or in DC.
Yeah.
And the problem is not a small one. It is a big one. So in each of these three positions, there's some truth. But that's not the manly way to respond to it. It's not the Catholic way to respond.
Yeah. First one to respond to it is the motives of courage: faith, justice, and hope.
Yes, courage, we often admire people with courage, but we forget to think that courage is a rational virtue. Courage is not audacity. Courage is not tying a rope to your leg that's a bungee cord and jumping off a bridge to just bungee into the darkness or into the night because you want to feel the thrill of falling and snapping back. You could break your neck that way with whiplash, but that's not courage, that's audacity.
Mm-hmm.
Courage has motives. It has to have rational motives. Even if it's instantaneous, then it comes from the habit of your heart, your mind. And like the soldier who, when the handgun gets thrown in the trench, he doesn't know any other way to stop it, but he wants to save his fellow soldiers' lives, and he puts this helmet on that grenade and jumps on top of it, even though he'll probably get killed. It's an instant reaction, but it has motives. It's not irrational.
Mm-hmm.
And in the present affair, we need to, as Christians, as Catholics, look at our faith which should always be our primary motive.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we were not created for this world. Yes, our real battle is a spiritual battle. Yes, this world can't be saved. It's going to be destroyed at the end of time. However, saving our country isn't about saving land. And it's not about saving a political order.
Mhm.
It's about saving our brothers and sisters in the faith, our neighbors, our families, our children from becoming victims of a completely tyrannical and unjust system. And if Christ died for us, then we should be willing to sacrifice ourselves for them. Okay. And yes, Christ died to save us from hell, but that doesn't mean that we can just allow everyone we know go into slavery or Marxist tyranny. So there's an analogy there. What we're doing is far less important historically and spiritually, but it's also a work of justice and necessary. I mean, we look at the Catholics of our ages past. France would have become Muslim back in the eighth century if Charles Martel didn't organize his entire army and march to fight, even though he knew maybe a third or half of all of his forces and himself would be put to death and die in that battle. And many did die at that battle where they defeated the Moors at Tours on the plains of Tours.
Mhm.
And when Blessed Urban II called the First Crusade to liberate Jerusalem, no one had ever been to, hardly anyone had ever been to Jerusalem. The nobility of France rose to the challenge, and they took Jerusalem through many trials and many disagreements and many sufferings. I'd say those were much more imminent and violent battles than a political contest where to solve the problem, we just really need to organize a good anti-Masonic pro-Christian party. And so, yes, it takes some courage, but it's really not to the level of the magnitude of the great men of old. And so, their faith motivated them. We need to use our faith too. We put it to work. So, that's our first motive. And hope, we have to have hope, or might you'd say foresight. Yeah, if you don't know anything about it, you might think it's an insolvable problem. But solving the problems of a country when it's the solution is using a political party isn't really an unknown thing. It's not like Columbus sailing into the unknown charted waters or Magellan sailing around the world. Boy, they had hope. They had a lot of confidence. They had a lot of foresight too, because they understood their navigation and things. But we have God at our back, so our cause is just. And it's not like there's only 1 million Catholics in this country. There's 60 million Catholics in the United States, and then another 60 million ex-Catholics in the United States, so at least friendly, and then all the kinds of Christians who would certainly be friendly and join with us in such a project. And what was the third point for motive for hope there?
Hope.
Okay, so faith, courage has a rational basis. Let's use an example of a fireman. Firemen often run into burning buildings to save people. Now, you and I don't know anything about fighting fires. It would take a lot of courage, and we'd probably be burnt to death because we don't know how to do it. But since a fireman's done it, and he does it as a profession, he knows what protective equipment to wear. He knows how to enter the building. He knows how to prepare it. His fellow firemen know where to spray the water at that moment to get him in there, and they know how to find where the person is, and they know how to do what they do. It's still courageous what they do. Firemen are very courageous men, but they'll explain to you. Talk to any fireman. If you follow proper procedures, you can do what appears to be extremely heroic work with really out much danger. And it's a question of minimizing that danger, even though it's still a courageous endeavor. So we're not really in much danger starting a Christian party in the United States. It's not like running to a burning building. So if we start thinking about all the steps that go into it, none of them are things that should frighten or cause us to despair. It just takes organization, and we already have 60 million brothers and sister Catholics in the country, and probably another 150 million Christians. So we're already here on the ground. We already share really deep values about everything that the Democrats and the Republicans do not share and would never share. So to go forward, to enter the political fray, the challenge, this shouldn't put us off, and we shouldn't get despaired or frightened about it. So.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also by what we've seen, how people have reacted and how the states are reacting to the voting machines, and people are saying, "Oh, we'll never win an election with those machines." But after the good states see how damage they've done, they'll never use them again.
Yeah, that's true. We don't live in America is not lost. The majority of America realizes this is a problem. And I think this will be the last we see of voting machines. I think they're going to be hand counted from now on. And states are taking strong measures, like North Dakota is going to establish a actual legal procedure for nullifying everything coming out of Washington and asserting their state rights. And South Dakota is considering a similar thing. And that's going to spread like wildfire because the governors and the legislatures of the states who had honest elections, they're going to realize that the people are totally going to support them if they start asserting state rights. And that is going to be great for the Catholic Party of America because we're not a party that is of the deep state. We're opposed to the deep state. And people are going to start saying, you know, I don't want to vote Democrat or Republican because they're the ones that cause the problem and they're the parties that rule in Washington. We need a local party that is going to defend states' rights, defend Christians, and defend us against the deep state and excesses of federal power. And where is that state? It's going to be the Catholic. Where's that party? That's the Catholic Party for America because we're in an indigenous party that unites Hispanics and Europeans and North American Indians, and that has that unites Christian values with fundamental American views on civil rights and the upholding of law and order. So no other party, no other endeavor, not like that. So-called patriot parties, which is dead on arrival, which is organized by a bunch of Jews, could never have because that's just not American values. And so it's the time is, like we said in yesterday's program, our time is now. You know, the storms of anti-Catholicism seem to be strongest, but they've unmasked themselves, and now everyone is getting red-pilled, and they're looking for an option. So.
Yeah. Now we have the fields of courage.
Yeah, so you can't be courageous unless you actually do something, okay? You can't win the battle unless you're on the battlefield, and there's no point having the right to vote if you don't use it. Now, what did our Lord say about the talents? Oh, I just put my talent in the ground and came back next year and hope it sprouted. It doesn't work that way. Our Lord expects us to use our vote for his cause and to defend right and justice and the innocent. And he's going to ask us an accounting of that. Now, in past years, when neither the Democrat or Republican would ever do any good, a lot of Catholics didn't vote, and a lot of Christians didn't vote, and our votes went to waste. But the Catholic Party for America is a party where your vote's going to count and have a force you can't even imagine, because it's not going to accommodate to the agenda of those silly Masonic parties. Yeah. And you can get an idea of where it would go by just reading AJ's meditations on politics on the Catholic Party site, and how absolutely wonderfully Catholic it is, commonsensical, and American.
Yeah. Now, you want an idea of how powerful this party could be? I don't think there's been a true widespread wipeout in an electoral race with our yesterday we were at 299, and we've added 2 more states.
Yeah, so Catholics are everywhere. So it's not like the problem with the Democrats is they can't really convince anyone outside of the big cities to vote for them. And the problem with the Republicans is they have a hard time convincing the poor, the minorities, and the people in the cities for voting for them. Well, we Catholics are found both in the countryside and the cities, and we're both other classes of poor and wealthy. And in our wonderful faith that Christ gave us, we have a system of values that sees goodness in all the things and knows how to handle the problems in all these different areas. So we can unite it all, and we can recruit a very wide consensus above all, because we're not a party that has to live in the historical problems of the Democrats and Republicans who've been fighting each other for more than a century. Where our faith pre-existed slavery, racial slavery, and we've always condemned it. So our hands are clean for the problems of slavery in the South. We are not a racist. We are not a religion of racists. So we don't. It's not even a problem for us in the sense of it shouldn't exist, and we're firmly opposed to racism. But then again, we're anti-Marxist, and that's the real threat for America. Catholicism is essentially anti-Marxist, and we have been so from the very beginning of Marxism, we should say almost before, because we've seen heresies rise and come throughout the ages. And so we're free from all the baggage that the Democrat and Republican Party has. We condemn the KKK. They would go out assassinating Catholic priests, so we hate what's at the bottom of the Democratic Party. And we're not secularists like the Republicans who nixed the amendment to put Christ's name in the Constitution back in the 1880s. So we're free of everything that would keep people from voting for either of those parties. And that would make the Catholic Party of America very appealable, I think.
Goals of courage.
Yeah, so courage isn't audacity, as I mentioned before, but courage is that audacity that seeks justice, that seeks that seeks a life, that seeks to defend peace, to uphold the innocent, to defend the children from the womb until natural death. It's going to be courage to oppose the New World Order and the Great Reset. And if we don't do it, we'll become slaves with things implanted in our minds and our children's minds, and they'll start implanting them in kids' minds right out of the hospital. And we don't want that world of horrors that they're dreaming up. And our God is going to be at our back defending us because he's the creator and he's opposed to all that fake, twisted view of reality. And that's our field of battle, and that's where we need to use our courage. It can't be courage in making a video or, doing something on the internet. It has to be courage out in the real world, that, knocking on doors and organizing a party locally in your county and your state and nationwide. That's where the courage is going to be shown. The courage to get up and say what needs to be said and speak outside of all these categories of control that we're just constantly being forced to fit into. And it's not courage for a Christian to run as a Republican or Democrat and get into Washington, because when he gets there, he's not allowed to speak as a Christian. He has to do what the parties say. He can't say this, he can't say that. Some things you can't say. If I spoke as a Christian right now and on this video that's going to be uploaded to YouTube, they would just censor it. But once the Catholic Party of America gets in power, that's going to be the end. That kind of censorship is going to end, and you're going to hear the pure gospel truth and common sense that you can hear on the sidewalk of every town in America. And that's what we need, because they're trying to impose a slavery on us. They're trying to impose it top down, and they're trying to set rules of the game where to play the game, you have to be under their control. No. Catholic Party of America is not going to play that game, and that's why your vote will really have effect. And this is the goal of courage, to win the battle, not
Yeah. And and I also see it on Twitter and how the Hungarian parliament members who are doing those pro-family laws and everything and saying, "Man, I wish the United States would do this." I keep responding to them. Have you been reading your website?
Yeah, we can do a lot of good that is just not even allowed in our current system. And this is what we mean about totally destroying the Masonic political system and having true, sane Catholic politics, and end this massive slaughter of children in the womb, and end this massive wave of absolutely forced perversion,
Mm-hmm.
and speak correctly about the realities of life, that
Yeah.
these and what is right and what is wrong, and that right is always a right to do what is good, honest, and just. Not, it's not like the Declaration of Independence written by Freemasons says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. No, it's life from moment of conception, liberty from oppression, and the pursuit of honesty, not happiness. Honesty is man and wife in a Christian marriage, whereas a twisted person might think happiness is something else, which it's not. It's just mutual perversion or mutual abuse. And we're not going to have sanity in this country unless we have a Catholic Party for America and fight for it. That's the goal. Otherwise, our country is just going to be destroyed from within and then from without.
Yeah. And finally, the rewards.
Well, of course, the greatest reward will be a crown in heaven for having done something wonderful. To take back a country for Christ is the work of Joan of Arc. And I think every Catholic admires Joan of Arc, but let us not forget that though Joan of Arc only did what she did because three saints appointed to her, one of whom was the Archangel Michael, our Lord's sending us a message in Joan of Arc that it's his will that we Catholics fight for the defense of our uh, homeland, for our country, against the forces of darkness and corruption. And whether that's from a foreign source or it's from moral corruption within the country. And it's not necessary to wait for St. Michael the Archangel to appear to us and tell us that. We have the right to vote, and so we have the right to use that weapon for the cause of justice, the right to vote. And the reward will be tremendous. It will be a future of prosperity and sanity for our children and grandchildren, and for hundreds of years until, God willing, Christ comes, that will really make America great. Because
Mm-hmm.
America has not been exporting liberty around the world. America has been exporting Freemasonry around the world and corrupting and destroying the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
And we have to get beyond the propaganda and snap back into the Catholic reality of what the real rewards should be. And that should be making the world not a better place to live in a materialistic sense, though that should be too, but a world where what God the Creator, what Christ wants for all peoples, for Americans, and for all the peoples around the world.
Yeah. There are some Polish Catholics here who recognize what America has done to Poland, making it more not Polish, more American Masonic type deal. You can even see in their president who's doing crazy things and COVID things, and so if we can take back America, make America Christian, and one day make it Catholic, imagine the impact it'll have on the other free countries of the world.
That's right. We in America were a land of immigrants, except for the American Indians who've been here thousands of years. have you ever thought what America has done to France or England or Germany or Italy or Spain or Mexico, or you name the country around the world? One reason why so many of us emigrated to this country, our forefathers, is because our countries were so darn screwed up. And in many cases, America had a hand in it.
Mm.
And we don't realize that we unwittingly fled to the country that was causing the problems. Did America come to the defense of the King of France after the King of France helped America fight the American Revolution?
No.
Did America really liberate Italy from the fascists, or did it just put back in power Masonic fascists? Did America come to help the help of Spain during its civil war and aid Franco against the vicious Marxists that want to murder that were murdering thousands of priests and clergy?
Nope.
Matter of fact, America supported the communists. And in Mexico, you've had horrible governments that persecuted the church viciously. They were all supported by the Masonic Company of the United States. So if you want the reign of Christ around the world, you have the duty to vote Catholic Party of America in the United States, because we have to take down this evil, deep Masonic state. We have to take it down. This is our duty before God. This is our mission.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Any last words?
We've been promised victory. St. Brendan and Padre Pio told us that we will have victory. So, hey, it's going to be a walk in the park, and the battle's won, and we just need to mop up. So, what we need to do, though, is we have to snap out of the systems of control that the Masonic order has established in our country, taking control of our church and a lot of our talking heads. Either indirectly, they've just accepted Masonic errors, and so they're totally controlled, or they're emotionally or psychologically or ideologically compromised individuals that have been intentionally promoted to preach despair, surrender, and a pretense that nothing is wrong. And so we got to snap free out of that, and we have to have a new generation of Catholics who are going to take leadership positions and not bend one bit to these people. And so I encourage all the members of the Catholic Party of America to watch programs at Ordo Militaris Radio TV. AJ and I have done a lot of programs on history to help you get red-pilled and realize what it really means to be Catholic. And that would be my recommendation to you.
Okay. And to the members of the party, check your emails. We have a new way of constant communications. So join up that way so we can contact each other and get more organized. And yeah, let's make this country Christian again, and then one day make it Catholic. God bless America. God save the Republic.
God bless America. God save the Republic.